Hey everyone, this is Cassandra Sims, known as Cassie the Coach, host of the Boss Ladies Roundtable podcast, where we help ladies win at love and life. In today's episode, we're talking about the relationship blame game and what that means in many situations with many women. Let's get started. Ladies. All right. I want to welcome you back to the Boss Ladies Roundtable. This is Cassandra Sims. I'm excited to be back before you, also known as Cassie the Coach. I'm here with my co-host. That's Christina, Val, and Camille. Hi, guys. So, yes, thank you. So, our last session, we had talked about we were kind of dissecting the movie Fences with Denzel Washington and Viola Davis, and there was a short specifically that we kind of went in on, and I think it was just one of the main parts of the movie. And it was her talking to him, him telling her about his 18 years of being with her and how he really felt his life was stagnant, right? And then she was responding back to him and said, "I planted myself in you," and she had waited for it to bloom, and she was right there with him for those 18 years, and just her response. And so we know, as we talked about, a lot of women, we experience a lot of things in our relationships with our men, and we go through a lot of levels of responsibility, of blaming, and we call this session our relationship blame game, right? So we know that oftentimes there's a lot of blame in relationships, but both parts, on the part of men and the part of women, right? And so we want to talk about that a little more today. And so we want to flesh out some more of these ideas that we were talking about earlier. And one of the things that we were kind of having just some general conversation around. And I think that was a hot topic for us, okay? And let me just share with you guys what that looked like. That hot topic was, when do we hold on too long? And what does that look like for women? Sometimes we know that, when does the relationship over? And is there something we can do? Is there something we should do differently? And we just kind of had a thought about that. Can somebody kind of bring that back to the table? That's the question on the table. But we kind of had some real deep conversation around that in our own personal lives. And so, Christina, why don't you just go ahead and share your thoughts? I'm gonna get you first.
Yeah, Christina. Well, I think one thing is that we've all been married and we've been divorced.
Yes, all of us.
And we've been through struggles in marriage. I was married for 28 years, and I felt that, I didn't even have my own identity until maybe 25 years in, really.
What does that look like? What do you mean by that?
Well, I believe as women, I poured myself into my children and their lives, and making sure that they had all the things that I didn't have growing up. Make sure that I'm a nurturer. I pour into people, and I really wanted my children to be much better than I was. I wanted them to have a better childhood. I had siblings, younger siblings, and I poured into them. I was like everybody else, doing things for everybody else. I was pouring into my husband at the time. I was pushing him. I was making sure I resumes, made sure he was working. He had stuff he needed for work, and he got promotions and all these things. And then, there was even times when he got hurt, he couldn't work. And so we had to share more of the home responsibilities. I worked outside the home, but I worked. I was the mother. We took
all these hats. Here we go. We're talking about those hats.
I went to school. Right? It was never about me. It was about my children, their activities. Even though we went to church still probably 4 days a week. I was active in the church. I was an editor of, choir rehearsals, things like that. Then I was active in my workplace as well. So, and then children's activities and their schools and things like that. So I wore so many hats that, you're everybody's something.
Doesn't sound like you have much time for yourself.
No.
Yeah.
And so we get lost in that, pushing and delving into building up everybody else around us. And it's easy to get lost.
That's right. It is. Val, how about you? Tell me about how you resonate with that question.
Just in general, being there for your husband, being there for your kids, the same thing she was saying. So I concur what she said. I'm a nurturer too, and I want to make sure everybody have what they have in a relationship. But I'm going to make sure that Valerie is taken care of too. So I worked and my husband worked, but I did make sure that everybody had what they had in the family. Diving into making sure that your husband have everything. We cook and we clean and keep the house. That's just what we do. My mother taught us very well because she was a stay-at-home mom, but just being there and making sure that household is taken care of. Then I'm going to go out. Once the kids are in school, I'm going to go out and I'm going to dive into whatever I dive into. I'm a very hyper energetic person. So I'm going to always find something else to do, you know, whether it's doing hair in the salons, you know, doing fashion shows and doing all kinds of different things. So making sure that I'm getting my stuff done just as well as I'm taking care of this man too. Okay. But when you find yourself kind of keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you get consistent. Okay. And they see you're consistent and they know that you're going to be there. You know what I mean? And so when they see you're going to take care of these responsibilities, and then they'll start sometimes slacking. Or there's a little time where I can slant off and do this, you know. So then sometimes there's like, maybe I'm doing a little bit too much for myself, and he get a little jealous, or he got some extra time now. Okay.
Hey, this is one of those real sessions, right?
So then all of a sudden now you're disappearing for hours. And then, you know, you starting to notice it's like, okay. So then you start slowing up a little bit. So the thing is that you have to be consistent with that. And then he have to be consistent. But I tell women, if you start off a certain way, you're going to have to continue to do the same thing. But if you can't start that way, you know, don't be that way.
I disagree in a certain, at a certain point there. I believe that you start out that way because you don't know any better. But as you learn better, you do better.
You learn, you do better.
And so for me, I had to learn how to set boundaries. Okay. And when I began to set boundaries, then I began to make time for myself and had, you know, even everybody in my household had to learn how to respect my boundaries.
But what did that look
like for you, Christine?
What if they don't know that though?
How did you make that happen?
Because
you had 3 kids, right?
I had 4. I raised 4 children. Okay. And I had to learn that my time was valuable too, you know. But once they start getting older, I understand. You know, I began to learn that they're going to have their own lives, and so what am I going to do when they don't?
Experiencing
you know
that too.
Yes. And so, what am I going to do with my time then? So that's what it was like a shocker to me. What's my life without them? And so I began to plan some activities and things for myself, and I found out that I need time. I could do stuff and have time too. There's a me in here that wants to do
a me in here that wants to do things too. I love it.
And I began to rediscover myself in that, but I had to set boundaries so that I gave myself time, and they respected that time.
They have to,
and because you can't have. I'm not going to give you this in this time. I have this certain time, and you know, I was very. I believe in setting order. I was very organized, and so. It was my way, it's my house anyway. So I set the rules.
Well, you're the queen of your castle, my dear.
So you know, I didn't, and it was easy. It wasn't easy, but it was. I had to implement it. And
over time, you felt that people started to get it.
I had to be consistent with it. No, this is my time, and this is what I'm going to do. This, and it was. I think it was the hardest for my ex to accept.
Okay,
that. I was demanding time for myself.
You had to.
Yeah, that the children, you know, they kind of fall in line.
They fall in line.
They pretty much fall in line. But it was harder for him to accept that I was making a stand for some time for myself. And when you set those boundaries, it's a challenge for both of you because you have to keep it and be consistent, and you also have to demand it of them.
Exactly. You have to demand it, but you have to let them know too, you know, this is how it's going to be, you know.
But
sometimes, a lot of times you don't do that up front because you don't know at the beginning.
Right.
But later on, when you see that you can make time to do other things, and then you feel those voids.
Right.
But my thing was doing what I do. I have to rely on social media because it's free.
Mm-hmm.
It's a free advertisement.
Everything.
You know what I'm saying? So therefore, when I'm at the salon, I'm working. Mm-hmm. But when you go home, you know, you're doing all this. Because you want to keep your clients coming in. That's you know what I'm saying? So this is a free platform. So when I go home, I make sure you got dinner, you know. That's the
boss lady.
Making sure he gets taken care of.
Fried up. Go out, make some money, fried up, and make our man never forget he's a man.
Okay? And I'll take care of that. But at the end of the day, while you sleeping, I'm like,
getting it done.
That's what I do. But then when you wake up and you come in and say, you always on that phone, you always on the internet, you always this is how I make my bread and my butter.
Right.
This
We're
is
gonna talk about that some more.
You know what I'm saying?
As boss lady.
So what I'm saying. So this is how I do this. But don't worry about it. If I took care of you, let me take care of me.
There you go. That's self-care.
That's the discrepancy that I have. And that's one of my reasons why I'm going through what I'm going through right now. But the thing is that women, if you can't start it a certain way, again, I'm gonna say this: don't start it. You know, you got to finish it this way. Start this way. Get some ground rules, some understanding, like you said, set some boundaries.
Set some boundaries up front.
It's still easier.
What do you think,
than done, but I want to go back to your. I want to go back to your original question on how do you know when it's too long, when you've been in there and it's too long? I think that as women who are committed to thriving and figuring stuff out and making stuff work, right? Boss ladies, whatever you want to call us, helpmates, right? We're trying to help it work. I think to the extent that you keep helping it work and you feel like it's not working, and then it makes you feel like, starts making you feel like there's something wrong with you because it's not working.
That's right.
And then staying in it makes you feel like you're dying inside. Okay, you've been in it too long. Yeah, it becomes like a suicide mission, right? You're like, well, if I stay, I feel like I'm dying, and so then you're like, but I'm committed to living, right? Because I'm going to live. I'm going to make this. I'm going to live my life with or
with or without you,
with or without you.
Right.
And if you know it's time to go, and you probably stay too long, right? There's a lot of damage done, but it's never too late, right? And any given moment,
never too late.
You can change what you're doing and make a different decision.
But if you love that person like we do, we stay in it and we try to stay in it to win it.
You try to make it work.
But the thing. And I'm a suicide. Kick the dust off your feet. Don't cast your
dust
off your fur on the first time. If they're not accepting it, if it won't work,
that's right. And then you gotta move. No. I hear you. I understand.
And I tell her, I was late, and it took me a lot longer, even though I knew probably 25 years before I actually did walk away. I knew that really wasn't for me, but I allowed the circumstance to, to give it another chance, and it worked for a while, for a good, another 15, 20 years, it worked. And then, it's when you keep seeing yourself, you're making all the changes and you're making all the adjustments, and there's nothing coming. Marriage is two ways.
It's a two-way
street. A relationship is with two people. It's not one person in it.
That's right.
And when you, like you said, when you feel you keep doing all the work and you're getting nothing back,
of course, you're the source of everything.
You're the source of everything. There you go.
You your own problem. With him.
Well, what did they say the definition of insanity is? Right. Doing the same thing in the same way, expecting a different outcome.
That's
okay. So that is the key. So we have to decide, we have to decide as women, though, as we talked about this in the first session too, part 1. We talked about sometimes we are so committed to the end. Sometimes you feel you're just being dragged down, but we don't save ourselves.
That's right.
We go down with the ship. Hi, everyone. This is Cassandra. If you are finding value in today's video, then I invite you to join our community. Please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you are notified when we post new episodes. Now, if you want to reach me directly, you can reach out to me via email at CassieTheCoach1@gmail.com. If you want to go deeper with us, then I'd like you to subscribe to our email list to be notified of future classes, events, and webinars. by clicking the link below. Now, let's get back to today's Boss Ladies Roundtable discussion.
Yeah.
Emotionally. Emotionally.
Yeah.
Emotionally,
We go down with the
That's
ship
why when
emotionally.
we leave, even if you leave, right, you're still emotionally damp. You had all this baggage that you now have to recover from.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's
And
what I
I
was
think
saying.
it's
A
a
lot of
big deal.
times
Yes.
there is counseling, and that's the first thing they'll say. Have you guys been to counseling?
Yeah.
You can go to counseling, but I feel sometimes you can go to couples counseling,
Yeah.
but you also need to go to individual counseling.
I agree with that completely.
I like
Because
to
it's
do
not
it for
only
myself.
what we're
Yes.
going through in this relationship.
Right.
Sometimes it's baggage from your old relationship, it's baggage from your parents and what they distilled in you
That's right.
and what you saw. So
That's right.
yes, that's
Well, we are what we see and what we grow up. I
That's
mean,
right.
we're products of our environment. All of us are.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
And so whether that's good, bad, the lessons we learn, the images we see,
Mhm.
let's face it, there are a lot of people who have fatherless homes.
Mhm.
There are mothers that come home and it's unavailable emotionally. Let's go there.
Mhm.
Kids are dealing with that. So if you see that, you take that into your life. You take that
That's
into your
right.
relationships.
That's right.
That's all you
right.
know.
Mhm.
And I think that one of the things that we'll get involved in more as we go through this podcast experience is we need to talk more about emotional healing,
Mhm. We
healing
need
from
to-
trauma,
Yeah.
Yes.
healing from bad experiences, and then after you heal, going through that process, and then coming out on the other side as the new person.
That's right.
Because I believe healing is something that each and every one of us can partake in.
Right.
Yeah, we need
And
it.
God
We
has
need it.
given us the spirit of healing.
That's
Mhm.
right.
It comes
Mhm.
from above, I believe. And so,
And
if
in
we-
every relationship,
Yes.
when you're in a relationship, it's
Mhm.
really good for women and men to
Mhm.
have other friends
yes,
and other people that you can talk to. You don't share all your intimate things with them, but it's
Right.
always
That's a
good to
whole
have
nother
somebody.
conversation.
And it is.
It is. It's true.
But you number
It's
one, you're
healthy.
not in your marriage alone, but sometimes you feel like you're alone,
Mhm.
but you're not. There are other people. So, it's always good to have somebody that you can talk to,
Mhm.
at least for your own emotional
Mhm.
sanity.
Mhm.
You got
So, what do you
girlfriends
think
or
that is? Girlfriends,
cousins.
friends,
You don't
pastor,
share,
who?
so you got to have boundaries. Again,
Okay.
it's boundaries.
Okay, so do you believe in your friend having a female friend that he's close to?
I don't know.
That
That's an
he's-
interesting
I-
one.
That
I
he
think-
shares all of his intimate.
That's not friendship. That's different. So it depends on what. So when I talk about that, I'm talking about healthy relationships.
Mhm.
I'm not talking about extramarital relationships.
Mhm.
I'm talking about in your relationship. You come before you got married. You had friends, or you had relationships with other people that you talk to on a regular basis.
Right.
Just because you get married doesn't mean you stop all those relationships.
That's
Right.
true.
You have to have boundaries.
Mhm.
Always have boundaries,
Mhm.
but you always want to have people that you still have in your circle. Like I just got married, but you guys are still my girls.
That's
We still have girls' night out.
That's
My
right.
husband didn't change that. As a matter of fact, he welcomes that.
That's right.
Because we're still women. We
You
still
find
want
that to be
whole.
healthy
we
for your
need
marriage.
that.
It's
Yeah.
healthy
It's healthy for your
us
marriage.
to have
Mhm.
other relationships.
Mhm.
We want our husbands. They should have their guy friends. I believe they should have their guys night out, not guys and girls, not with no other women.
Mhm.
Right.
But guys, it's healthy for men to have male relationships.
They need it. They need it.
And it helps us to, just to you bounce things off.
Right.
Now
Right.
you still have to have boundaries because you got to know when
Gotta
somebody's
have
not
boundaries.
healthy. You don't want to keep going out with unhealthy people.
That's
You
right.
really kind of want your relationship. We grow when we are with people who are stronger than us,
Yeah.
who have something that we can glean from.
Mhm.
Our circle is not just all one
Well,
level.
I'm a
Right.
firm believer in too that you have to be careful who you share your intimate details
Absolutely.
and information with, because let's be real, when you're married, there are certain things about your marriage
You
that
gotta
you don't need
share.
to share with anybody.
Absolutely.
Your girlfriends,
And
or frenemies, they call them. They're
Frenemies.
friends, but they're really your enemies. You
Mhm.
have to be careful because you need to know that person really, truly has your best interest at heart.
Mhm.
And it's got to be somebody you trust, often
Mhm.
somebody that you grew up with, your family,
Right.
loved ones that are close. But
And-
sometimes women, we just start talking and unloading. And
And
when we
that's
unload,
different.
that's not necessarily the healthiest place to
Correct.
be.
Correct. And let me clarify.
Yeah.
That relationship, just because you have another relationship doesn't mean you tell everything. And I didn't mean that by that.
No, I
It's
didn't
just
take it
having
that
an
way, but
outside
yeah.
relationship that you can just have somebody else that you talk to and
about
do
things.
things with
And run
outside of your
things
marriage,
by.
because you still are another person outside of that marriage.
Absolutely.
When you get married, it's not just you left that who you are away.
Right.
You don't put who you are aside. You're still, I'm still Christina,
right,
outside of being my husband's wife.
Right.
Right.
All right, Miss Camille. I'm gonna pick on Camille. I was like, right, Camille, what do you think about all of that? What's your feeling?
All of what she said.
Well, no.
Or
which part?
The question is no. It says no. You're going to basically, you know, when you stay too long. But when is enough enough? When have you gone far enough? When you're trying to really move forward. What was the question initially?
Well, she answered that question. I was piggybacking off.
You were piggybacking off of that. But I want you to chime in because Camille, I think you bring a certain thing to the table,
she does.
element to the table, and you've been quiet, so we're gonna resurrect you and all emotion.
I am.
Yeah, we're gonna get.
Y'all can tell I'm an emotional, passionate kind of person.
Okay, we like that.
So
we need
just on what Kristen, you said something important earlier, just about identity, right? And us potentially losing our identity, right? And part of our identity when we get married, we're trying to find out who we are. We want to be one with this person. We want to be best friends. We want to do all this. And you want, you know, when you stay in so long, I think you get into this blame game thing because it's like, well, the success or failure is dependent on us.
That's right.
Right? And
So
you lose your identity.
That women feel like it when something doesn't work, it's our fault.
I think we go through that process.
Val said part of the
because that's a part of the process.
The short end of well, I am from just a self-conscientious person. I say, well, what can I do? Right? Because I'm empowered, right? So either I can fix it, or I can accept it how it is, or I can, you know, talk to this person. But what can I do? Right? If I can't do anything and I'm helpless, you know, it's like the serenity prayer, right? Like tell me this. Change things that I can, accept things that I can't, move on, whatever. But yeah. But I went through that, and oftentimes I often think that and this isn't healthy. It's a healing that I have to go through. But I feel like stuff is my fault because I feel like I should be able to do something to make it better. And sometimes it's
do you think that's the boss lady in you? Because I the reason I asked you that question is because I have often felt the same way. The first place I go to when something is not going well is, Cassandra, what did you do to bring this to? What did you do that contributed to this situation? I'll start with me. And while that's healthy, I think undertones of that is I'm like, okay, you probably didn't do this. You probably didn't give enough time. You probably should have cooked more. You probably should have went to the grocery store. You didn't make your bed last week. And people are like, you know what? That was the one straw that broke the camel's back. You just didn't see it coming. Why didn't you see that coming? Because in business, I'm the kind of person, I'm on top of stuff. I see it coming. I look down the line. We keep calendars, right? We project. We have, you know, projections. We have all these other things that we do to assess systems to ensure success, right? That's where we come from as boss ladies. But in our personal relationships, that's a whole different ball game. It's the narrative is different.
It is.
And I think that because I'm so in control in one area of my life,
that way in our marriage.
I know.
We want to have somebody to boss us sometimes.
I know.
In that healthy way.
We don't want to come home
about it.
Okay, that's a whole nother thing.
And be nice to me.
There you go.
And be nice to me.
Let me be the queen. And you, when I come home, I'm boss lady on the job. I'm boss lady everywhere else.
True.
When I come home, I don't want to be the boss.
I don't want to make any decisions today.
Sometimes
you know what?
That's
one of the reasons I enjoy coming home and watch TV. I just want to unload and watch somebody else do something and not me. And it's not fair. Okay. It's like, okay, you look like a couch potato. It's because I've thought for about 15 people today, and I don't want to do any more thinking, including what's for dinner. Not healthy. I'm admit that it's not the healthiest thing to be. But that's just real talk.
Yeah. I honestly never know. I went through those things. I didn't know. I never turned it off.
That's it.
I was always taken care of. and I didn't get taken care of. I was in a whole marriage. I don't think I ever got
that's a
taken
deep
care
one
of.
right there.
Ever got taken care of. Nobody ever looked at me and said, what can we do for you? My children do that.
Mother's
now.
Day, you got Mother's Day.
But I still had to cook and figure out make the thing.
I think the
They
people
need
do
to
the
take
best
you out
they
for
know
Mother's
how.
Day.
Absolutely.
I think that people, and I don't.
Absolutely.
You
You
said
good.
something earlier that I think I disagree with. Just because you learn and you know better, you do better. I think knowing is not enough. I think
Knowing
that
isn't.
I think we know a lot of stuff. We read the books,
We know
but
a
it's
lot.
easier. It's
It
a process
is.
to change your habits,
That's
right?
right.
We have all these habits, and we read Power of Habit. I'm like, dang, how you do that?
Right.
Right?
You got videos.
We can
YouTube
change.
teach you
We
everything.
can change everything. Yeah,
Read.
YouTube, we
Mhm.
watch, listen, learn. But at the end of the day, one of the things they talk about neurolinguistic programming is we have to go back to those receptors to create new habits. And you got it, right. I'm learning that. I've been reading about that. You got to create those new habits. It's real.
So, but what you were saying in terms of just the boss lady in us, in terms of trying to fix it, right?
Yeah.
Thinking something is our fault. One of the yes, we do feel empowered, and we know that we have a Father in heaven who all things we can make it all
That's
work,
right.
right?
That's right.
Do
But
all
we cannot
things
control.
through
We cannot control people.
No, we
cannot
cannot.
control people.
And
No, we cannot.
Mhm.
it's a healthy boundary and understanding that look, everybody has to make choices. And are you going to choose me?
Mm.
Are you going to choose us?
That's
Yes.
good.
Deep.
Are you
Very
going to
good.
choose us
Wow.
over whatever
Whatever
is
you're doing in
distracting
your
you,
life.
pulling you in that direction?
Yeah,
that's
Do
right.
are you grounded? And do you have a firm foundation in a true north? You have a true north,
Okay.
right? Like, what is my
Yes.
standards?
Yes.
What are our standards?
But we have to grow and develop in those places.
Yeah.
And when and that's the whole idea
Mhm.
is that as women, if you're not there, you can get there.
Yeah.
We can get there.
We had to get there. We
Mhm.
learned, and it's
Mhm.
a process, and it's going to be different for each person.
It's intentionality.
It's
But don't
being
blame
intentional.
him.
no,
It's not his fault.
And don't let
You
him
blame
blame
yourself.
him.
You gotta blame yourself.
And it's
Right.
You gotta blame
You gotta do
yourself.
your own work.
self-care.
You got to do your own
That's
work.
right.
It's not his fault. It's not the kid's
It's
fault.
not your fault.
You
It
got to
ain't your
take a
fault.
look at your life for
That's
what
right.
it is,
That's
right?
right.
And you've got to decide and be intentional about, okay, these are the areas that I feel are going south, that are suffering in. You got to do something
Make some
intentionally
changes.
about
Yeah.
changing those areas every day. And it is a process.
It is
It's
a
not
process.
just you do it once, one and done.
You got to continue to do
It's
it.
every
And
day.
but ladies,
Consistency.
where does it start? It starts with a love
Of
for
self.
yourself.
Self-love.
Because you have
That's
right.
love from a
Mhm.
higher power, and you
Mhm.
know.
That's right.
I think that's a great place to get ready to end today.
Yes.
This was awesome, ladies.
Yes.
I think we touched on something that's going to be a topic in the near future. We need to dissect what makes us boss ladies,
Mhm.
but how do we deal with that? How do we leave the boss lady at work and pick up our lives at home? I want to thank each of you ladies for being involved in today's podcast, and thank you for sharing your ideas and
Thanks for
your thoughts and
having
your
me.
ideas with us.
Thank
And I
you.
hope that you guys learned something and write into us. Let us know what your thoughts are. We'll be listening and waiting, and we'd like to be able to respond to some of your ideas and thoughts as well. Thank you, and have a great one.